Welcome to Propaganda Loves You, the show that asks and answers the question, what do Vince McMahon and capitalist aliens have in common? I'm Kodie, your host for this episode, joined by Arthur and Joe.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Welcome back to Propaganda Loves You. This week, as every week, there's a ton of things that we could talk about, whether that's tearing down the entire east wing of the White House, or suing the Department
It's
of
a
Justice.
bunker. It's a bunker. It's got to be a bunker.
Ooh,
$300
really
million.
good idea.
$300 million.
I mean, obviously
for
money
private-
laundering, but yeah, also a
Yeah.
bunker.
Yeah, just the timing of that, and then also suing the Justice Department for like $250 million at the same time for restitution, right?
And the whole time he's like, "Oh, I gave up my salary."
Yeah, that's true. Thank goodness for that. Well, I guess if he stays president forever and you compound the years, then maybe it'll equal out in the end. But anyway, instead of talking about all of that this week, we've talked about They Live a few times on this podcast and said we were going to do an episode on it. So as our Halloween episode for this year, we are going to talk about They Live. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to watch before listening to the episode, or you can just listen to us talk about it. But before we get into that, Arthur, you weren't able to join us last week when Joe and I talked about what propaganda or disinformation or whatever we'd fallen for. So wondering, do you have an answer to that question? Do you have any propaganda that you think you may have fallen for?
Yeah, I feel like I was susceptible to a lot in my earlier days. And one really funny one that I thought of was Live Strong bracelet. Okay. I did have one all throughout middle school and loved it. And I thought that it like somehow directly was going to like cure cancer, The other one that I thought about like more abstractly was like the Hope campaign, Obama. I fell for that one too. And I mean, like, there's just so many, it's a little embarrassing. But I also felt like in high school, a big one was Tom's shoes. And then I just thought about like all the virtue signaling of clothing. And I think I'm still at fault with this. Like, if I wear like a Patagonia thing and I think like, oh, this is saving the planet, even, in whatever way. So I think I'm kind of susceptible. And I would say that like virtue signaling clothing brands have gotten me.
The Livestrong thing was what made me think about was, I think Livestrong, that was like one of the first ones that did it, right? The yellow band, that was kind of
Yeah.
like, but then like within
Just
a couple
$1.
years, there's like a band for everything. It's like people are like stacking them up like 10 deep on their wrists and stuff like that for all the different causes.
It reminded me that I'd fallen for the Coney 2012 thing. You remember the Coney
Yeah,
2012?
oh my gosh, don't make me
I bought the
embarrassed.
box with the
Yeah.
T-shirts and the
Totally,
flyer and
totally.
everything in it too.
We were going to
Yeah.
get them.
Yeah.
Wait, what was it? Remind me of that. Well, was that he was like a warlord or something, or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that,
But the
Okay.
founder of this movement was just, I mean, there was so much drama with this guy that was not okay, it turns out.
yeah, just trying to basically exploit that situation to make money off people or whatnot? Is that what it was doing?
I'd
Yeah,
honestly have to go
nice.
look it up again to know the details of it. But it was like a viral video campaign that just, I don't know, within a couple of months, I felt like half of American Facebook was just on Coney 2012. And that was
Yeah,
just,
our
it was a very
English
viral
teacher,
thing.
our English teacher made us watch it in class. Like she was giving us that. So
Yeah, and I still wear Toms. Like I have like 4 pairs of Toms. Good shoes. Like they're cozy.
they are.
you know?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, definitely. I still have some too.
So yeah, as we mentioned, today we're going to talk about John Carpenter's They Live. I was going to do a quick synopsis, unless Arthur, I know you were the first one to watch this out of us. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, but I'd be happy to walk through otherwise.
Heck yeah. John Carpenter's 1988 They Live is the tail end of Reagan era. It's a sci-fi cult classic. And really underneath that kind of like sci-fi cult classic layer, there's a revolutionary tale. The film, it might seem kind of like low budget alien thriller from the late 80s, but it's got a really sharp critique of consumer culture and like media manipulation and ideological control with some really iconic one-liners that I'm sure you've heard before. And they live, I first got it in this Pervert's Guide to Ideology, a documentary by Slavoj Žižek, who goes over ideological control in this movie in particular and goes through the whole narratives and social systems that kind of keep us under control or whatever. And it's just super insightful. So it's a really fun movie. And do aliens run the world?
This is probably the point where if you haven't watched the movie, it's still spoiler free, I think. So maybe now's where you dip out.
Yes, they
you
do.
don't want to hear more about it. So like the movie, I just watched it again before this just to kind of give you a refresher, but it starts with the main character played by Roddy Piper, who was a big wrestler back in the day. I never really followed wrestling. I don't know if you guys did when you were kids, but it just wasn't a thing that I watched. I had some friends that watched it, but I was never into
My
it.
stepbrothers were really on that, but I didn't really get into it.
It's not a propaganda I fell for, okay? Those punches were so far away from people's faces and stuff. Come on.
Well, we'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about the fight scene, but that actually helped a lot apparently with the fight scene. But yeah, so it's about this guy played by Roddy Piper who is like walking along some train tracks and goes to, I think he's like outside LA, right? Does this whole thing take place in LA? Well, or Santa Fe, right?
I don't know,
I
actually.
can't remember the exact city, but he goes looking for work, meets up at this union yard with this other guy played by Keith David. From there, it just goes to the point where there's this whole other subplot of this, what's it called? Like a pirate radio broadcast that keeps breaking into like TVs saying that everyone's like taken over and controlled by like this alien signal. Well, I don't think they say alien, but they're just saying these people are trying to control us. There's a line in the early part where I think he's talking to the Keith David character and he says something like, I believe in the American dream. Like it's like pretty early on in like the Keith David character's talking about how like it's all rigged, the system's rigged from the beginning. And then, Rowdy Piper is like, yeah, well, I believe in the American dream. Anyway, that continues. And to shorten this significantly, he finds the resistance people that were sending out the broadcast and finds these like glasses, right, that they had created. The glasses are what they enable him to see beyond the signal that's being propagated from the aliens. So they start seeing a bunch of messaging for what it really is. Like I think there was like billboards, that had previously said like some sort of advertisement thing. Now they say obey. Another one showed like a woman on a beach or something that says like marry and reproduce, and everything's in black and white. And so it goes on from there to where he's trying to convince his friend that, this, and of course it shows the actual aliens for what they're not humans. And all of the aliens happen to also be the rich people, right? Like the ones that have all the money throughout the show. And then it kind of turns into this weird like action movie where it's just them fighting the aliens the rest of the movie and like trying to destroy the signal. I've got some like kind of like things that I wanted to talk about, but from your guys' thought, like just on the movie, anything that pops to your head first that you wanted to talk about or mention?
Nothing super serious. I'm more along the lighthearted side about actors and how generations are different. Roddy, this main character wrestler guy.
Yeah.
How do you think he was when they filmed this movie? Like just the actor's age based on how he looks in the movie, how his face presents, everything. What age would you guess that human being is who filmed that character?
Good question.
That's a great question because he looks kind of old, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm influencing you. I'm influencing you.
All right, do you have your number? I've got my number. What do you think?
70? No. Yeah, I got a number.
I'm gonna say he looks 43, but the way that you're saying the question, I'm guessing younger.
I was gonna say like 46. So,
He's 33 years old. He is 33.
Wow. Yeah. Hard times back in the 80s, I guess.
What is going on in the water or whatever? What has happened? Like I feel like we don't like I'm 35. I don't think I look young, but like I don't know. I was just shocked that he was 33 when they filmed this. I was like, no way. Anyway, that's my only little, I don't know, pop culture thing
That's
or
pretty
whatever.
surprising.
Tired of life's endless choices? The daily mental drain of simply deciding? Obey introduces the Life Flow Automation subscription, your personal algorithm for easier living.
Every morning it was the same argument. What should we all wear? What's for breakfast? Then, did we remember everything for school? It was exhausting. Now, my Obey app just tells me exactly what I need to do.
The Life Flow algorithm seamlessly integrates into your daily routine. From optimal restaurant choices to perfectly balanced meal plans designed for the whole family, your days can become effortlessly productive.
That's right. Eliminate decision fatigue. Our family optimization module even handles the kids. No more arguments about screen time. Obey selects only age-appropriate, ideologically aligned viewing, and bedtime perfectly calculated for maximum cognitive replenishment.
It's a miracle. I used to agonize over telling my son no. Now, if it's not on the Obey approved list, he doesn't even know it exists. It's so freeing.
The Life Flow anticipates your needs. It understands your optimal path. It's your future simplified.
Subscribe to LifeFlow Automation today. Obey. Reclaim your peace of mind. Okay, so I guess my question, or my first question to you guys, there's that point where he puts on the glasses, right? And then he starts seeing the messages that are actually out there on all the stuff. And I think the main ones that I remember, like obey, consume, telling people to, and then there was like watch TV. Like I'm thinking like what would be the things that would be on there maybe like if this movie was made today, like would it be like, scroll? Like would that be like the subliminal
That's a great
messaging that's
one.
on there or something?
Definitely. Scroll is a great one.
Honestly, that word popped in my head before you said it. Like that was also the first word that I thought of. So yeah, that's something for sure. And
Yeah.
like the fact that they figured out how to monetize something as simple as a scroll, like when you think about mechanically, what like they're occupying our attention, but really you're just tricking humans into sitting here on our little devices, twitching our thumbs over and over while we're staring at the shiny screen and just I don't know. Have you seen that episode of Rick and Morty with like the little boxes inside universes that they trick people
Yeah.
into pressing the button over and over again so they can get the energy to, they're just using our thumbs to create this stupid attention vacuum cyclone thing. I don't know. It's really sinister when I think about it that way.
Is. Yeah. It's like I think I mentioned this to you guys the other day, but like when I was trying to like just sit and read one of our chapters and had my Apple Watch out, like just the amount of notifications continually get and just the reflexive nature of picking up the phone, like, oh man, I'm trained, right? It's bad. I need to go back to flip phones or something like that. Totally agree with you on that.
Scroll by, I don't know.
Yeah.
What are some other
Like
things?
dead is good. I don't know. Something along that lines. Or like, like buy now, like, like experience the now instead of like thinking about
yeah.
I don't know. There's got to be a simple word for that though.
Instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like, is it you're worth it? Oh wait, no, that's like a legit thing. That
Maybe like
that's like an
indulge
actual
or
marketing.
something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, I just think technologically too, it's interesting to think about how a movie that was produced today would depict a similar kind of message. They're kind of working with the technology they had at the time to like transform all these magazine racks and billboards into just a more simple, straightforward messaging. But if you're thinking about how we would even depict media usage in today's world, with like scrolling and multiple screens going on at the same time. People talk about a little rectangle, a medium rectangle, and a big rectangle they look at all day with their 3 different screen sizes that we all have. And like, how would a movie director play with that technology to depict what it's like when we put the glasses on and the message becomes clear now, what they're doing? What would that even look like? I don't know.
Yeah. That's like what popped into my head where you're saying that is like, would it just be like your eyes locked onto the screen? Like, because in the movie, there's an actual physical signal that's going out there, right? Like, there's a thing that's being pushed that's making you see this way. So, like, would it be like if you're looking at a screen, your eyes are just locked in and you're just kind of like zoned into this thing, which is probably how we look anyway when we're scrolling on our phones. We just don't even no, I mean, notice it as much, something like that.
Today it would be
Yeah.
like the 5G.
It's the signal. It's
Yeah,
just like pumping
yeah.
out.
They've adapted.
Well, Joe, you mentioned how they had all of the magazines in the magazine rack, and that actually stuck out to me too, because it was like each one of those magazines had it, like each page had a different message on it, and I was just thinking like, oh, it's kind of, you know, I was thinking about that in reference to today, and like there's this huge rack of all of the things that you could go buy and read from to distract you, right? And they've all got their own messages. Same exact thing today with like whatever app you're playing with on your phone or whatever, right? Like it's just I guess in the movie they're showing this from a like one signal source that's pushing this out, but I don't know, is it even more insidious today? Like there's no, I guess like there's no one thing that you can go and break, right? Like they do in this movie to like reset this or show people what's going on, right?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine some kind of simple switch you could just flip on or off to fix the whole thing. Oh no, like how do you just turn the internet off all at once?
Yeah. Or I mean like even just people's how they view it, right? How they've been trained to kind of view things over time. Like that whole fight scene, like it was like a 6 minute long fight scene of him trying to get his like friend to put on these glasses and see the world for what it actually was. I mean, there's so much there, like as far as just like the what allegory to, I guess, just waking people up in general, like that, like how resistant people are to any kind of like change in their mindset in some ways or what they believe is true.
I thought about oh man, what's the guy? Scyther. What's the guy's name in the Matrix who loves the steak and wants to be?
Oh yeah, Cypher.
Is it
Yeah,
Cypher? I thought of Cypher
yeah.
from the Matrix because that guy, he's eating with Agent Smith. He's tasting the fake steak and he's like, just make me a millionaire, put me back in, baby. I'll give you all that you need. And it's like, people love that whole, if you can just like forget, if I could just forget that, like, anything in Israel, Palestine was happening, any global war, like, yeah, of course you want to forget that stuff. You want to kind of dream and be asleep. And if it invites you in a comfortable setting, then I guess, yeah, it's very hard to like wake people from that. And it's so jarring that it takes a 6 minute fight scene. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It make the length of the fight scene makes a little bit more sense, having the context that he's a wrestler, and maybe that was part of his agent's agreement with the director. It's like you got to make sure he gets a really long fight scene somewhere in there. But no, it's a great like allegory for like it's not comfortable. It's not like good. Part of what we're talking about, all these references you're making, Arthur. It's like it's not things. It's not like these are fun to talk about. How much oppression is actually going on in the world, how much exploitation is actually going on, how little or few freedoms we actually have. It's not fun to talk about that stuff, but it is important, and helping more and more people understand some of these similar things allows us to organize around them and actually do stuff about it. But this allegory that the fight scene is depicting is like a real kind of problem that we all got to figure out on some level. It's like, how do you really make that transition happen ethically and effectively enough for it to make a difference? If enough people put on the glasses, it actually makes a difference, but you got to actually convince them to put them on. I don't know. It's a big question.
Yeah, and the like the other end of it, like, you take the glasses off and it's like you live in the real Matrix where, you're like on this, if you remember, I don't know if people remember the Matrix, of course, but you're woken up in this abysmal aftermath of society, and you're on this ship and you have to eat gruel, and you live on a ship and you go to this other colony and maybe there's people, but robots are, it's like, yeah, reality is not perfect. So yeah, definitely, like, I would rather, I don't know. Yeah. I would not rather stay in the dreamless sleep. And it's definitely important to get out of it. But I think it's just so jarring for people. So
Yeah, I was thinking about like what the modern equivalent of like those glasses would be, or if you had to like compare the glasses to today. Like, I don't know. I guess for me, it was a little easier to think about. It's like, I guess my glasses and kind of what we talked about previously and why we started the podcast, like Trump would be my glasses in some ways. Like just the corruption is so obvious and blatant and like in your face that it's like impossible, like for at least for me, like not to see it, I'm sure like others have different types of glasses that open up. I mean, Joe, you were talking about like yours was kind of like the Palestine conflict, like everything going on there. It takes like some significant event like that in order for people to really come to. People need to be uncomfortable, I guess. Like you need to go through your own like fight in order to see it.
No, what you're pointing to that makes a lot of sense to define the allegory that way is like the glasses represent each individual person's quote unquote radicalizing moment, the thing that you witnessed or understood or observed for the first time that really just flipped some political switch in your head and made you realize, oh, the world is not the way that I thought it was. It's actually very different in a bad way. And now I can't unsee that. I don't know. Everybody has that radicalizing moment. And I think there are actually like several of them. Like if you really go back and analyze your path or your journey of understanding and viewing the world in different ways, there are a lot of those. You probably know Arthur, the philosopher Thomas Kuhn, talks about these paradigm shifts where suddenly your worldview is just radically altered and like you can't, like that it's a kind of disorienting feeling. I think that's politically what you're talking about, Kodie.
Yeah. The sunglasses are a really interesting metaphor to like see. It's like the general public who doesn't have who don't have the sunglasses, they're obviously like blind to the exploitation of media and capitalism. The argument is being made in the film. They act as this Marxist critique of like, ideology, which is really about like any idea that reproduces a certain economic system, like here with capitalism. And so I guess like unveiling those critiques and like advertisements instigates in the character like psychological violence and resistance. I thought it was just such a really cool John Carpenter film. I've seen different John Carpenter films, and this one was political, and I loved it.
Something you're saying there too is like the glasses are what made it possible, right, for them to see the truth of what's going on. But it's not like they couldn't tell there was something wrong with the system, right? Like that was what I thought was interesting. Keith David's character was like talking in the beginning is like, it's rigged. Like they can tell something's wrong. They can tell something's rigged, but they don't really see the truth of it, right? Until they put the glasses on, which I thought was interesting. It's like you can't see what's actually causing it, but something's wrong. The only thing I wanted to hit on from the last part of the glasses was like the obey, the consume, and then like the slogan, I think money, like on money, it was printed like, this is your God. Like it was like printed on the money itself. There was like comparison there, I think, to like today, I was thinking about today, like the like hustle culture a little bit. You know how that's like this thing where it's like everyone's like, oh, you gotta push, you gotta work, you gotta get yours and push all the time and constantly like that. I feel like that would be something that would somehow, like, I don't know, hustle would just be like another thing that could be on one of those things if it was
I mean,
today.
you can walk into stores and literally buy t-shirts that say grind or whatever on the front. It's not even like subtle anymore. It's just there. It's a value. It's like I don't know. The only issue I was thinking about with the glasses now is sort of like just depicting a realistic version of that is I feel like you would need so many different glasses for different kinds of schemes or exploitations that are like there are so many layers to so many different issues in so many different ways that like you can point out, you can suddenly make someone understand how gender might shape someone's reality in a radical way. And you have this awakening moment with respect to how gender constructs reality. But then you can do the same thing with race, and you can do the same thing with class, and you can do the same thing with empire and colonialism. And you can just start to see these different ways that things happen. But I feel like each view is a little bit of a subtle difference from each other. Like there are all these different ways of approaching oppression that it would just take many different kinds of glasses. I don't feel like a one size fit. I don't know, that's just too convenient and neat. The way the real world works with oppression, it's just so layered and difficult to explain even that it takes a lot of legwork in that sense.
Arthur, you had some quotes from the movie?
Yeah, I thought it was just like a direct shot at capitalism. One of the lines that I wrote down was, and I think it's the main character, John Nada, played by Roddy Piper. And he says, the golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules. I thought, come on, you can't get more on the nose than that. And another one I wrote down that I really liked is, you see, I take these glasses off. She looks like a regular person, doesn't she? Put them back on. Formaldehyde face. And then there's, of course, like the ad-libbed famous quote that Roddy Piper has. It's legendary. It says, "I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum."
So many takes on that that I've heard that I never knew where, like,
Me
that's where this
too,
all
yeah.
kinda, like, originated from. It was from They Live.
But yeah, I'd heard about that phrase a long time ago. I had no idea where it came from, and me and Katie were just watching the film, and he said that line, and I was like, "Oh, wow, that line," or whatever, and she was like, "Where's that from?" And I was like, "It's this. I think it's this. It's like, it's gotta be this." But she, we assumed it may have been something. No, he ad-libbed that. That was just in the moment. That was crazy.
I was looking up interesting facts about this movie. I guess Rodney Piper, who was working, I can't remember if it was WWE or WWF at the time, but anyway, it was still Vince McMahon running the show over there. Apparently, Vince McMahon didn't want him to do the movie and said he would get him another movie with the same pay and everything within a week. So he left his contract to go do this movie and came back. I don't know if he came back to the same organization afterwards, but came back to wrestling afterwards, and he was a bigger star and had more control because of it. But it was interesting because he was basically said, I think the quote from Roddy Piper was like, for McMahon, it was all about power and like control, and it's like the movie itself is all about like power and control and how elites want to control the working, like, or the people and the humans in the movie. And I just thought that was a funny parallel that like that exact thing was happening like for Vince McMahon and him at the time.
I bet that made it really
So
satisfying to play that role too for that actor. Just like knowing the whole time you're shooting the movie that you're also just like giving your former boss the finger.
Yeah, totally. It's pretty cool.
for sure.
The whole thing kind of also like stands as a retelling of like, the whole Plato allegory of the cave, but which I had to write so many papers on. It was horrible. But, obviously these people are coming out of the cave with the sunglasses. They can see the truth. There's prisoners in the cave still who just see the shadows on the wall, which are everybody else. And then, it's like he kind of returns back to the cave to try to free the prisoner and help him see the world. And so it's kind of interesting just to have that allegory, I guess, be retold in like a modern take.
The other thing is that, people take away from this. I was reading a couple different articles about They Live, and I didn't realize that the right wing had co-opted this for a while or tried to co-opt, like they were basically using it as a anti-Semitic, like saying that the aliens were Jewish people and like that whole trope, like is what they were going with this. So it's a movie that like, if you don't look at what the actual director said about it, which is that it is a take on uncontrolled capitalism and rich yuppies and Reagan era policies, right? Like John Carpenter came out and said that. But their takeaway from it, almost the same thing like you were saying, Arthur, for The Matrix, right? Like that's also been co-opted, or the red pill like conversation around that. They're saying like, it's a very right-wing thing. So I just thought that was also kind of a worthwhile thing to talk about for a second, the way that art and whatnot can be interpreted and co-opted by this whatever group wants to view it that way, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like all the opposition and propaganda gets like absorbed back into the capitalist system, and we all have to buy it. And it's like, I remember it was like Che Guevara shirts, with like resistance, or like the V for Vendetta mask. Like it's actually owned by like Warner Bros. And so when people bought it, they were, it's like, yeah, the symbols of whatever. I don't know how to say it, but yes.
That's also the dangerous thing about art in general, though. The only point I want to make is about how people respond to things like books and movies. You can create a piece of art that's intended to do a certain thing or convey a certain message, but if the way it's conveyed allows a certain subset of the audience to read it differently, even if it's against your intentions as a creator, if it's meaningful enough to that group, they're going to co-opt it. And that's just kind of how like reader response theory works with text and movies and stuff. And it happens a lot with different art forms, with different things. And like the V for Vendetta thing is a good example, and the Matrix red pill thing and all that. But yeah, you have to be careful about being able to convey why it means the thing you want it to mean, and not just this, like the trope about Jews controlling Hollywood, right? If you don't lean into that message too much when you're making the movie, it makes it harder for people to read it that way. But if you lean into this whole Hollywood is controlled by a certain elite group of people trope, it sort of lends itself to being read that way by a certain audience, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I guess that's the only point I want to make is like sometimes it's useful to care about what the artist meant when they made it, but not 100% of the time. Like I like Harry Potter, but I don't like J.K. Rowling, if that makes sense. You know?
Oh, that makes sense.
I was just say this was. I think there's a quote from Alex Jones saying this is like one of his favorite movies, and he's watched it. The
Oh,
shit tons of times and
no.
stuff like that. So yeah, right. Like did not take. Well, I think that was also one of the things that got that made John Carpenter actually come out and clarify that this is not an anti-Semitic film. It's like, yeah,
That's pretty
when
funny.
Alex Jones is your key line. Are you tired of horrible feelings caused by friction? The moments of sudden stress, political frustration, or workplace inefficiency? Truth AI introduces the Foresight Focus Band, your wearable solution for cognitive clarity.
I used to spend hours battling myself. Road rage, debating the news, getting frustrated with incompetent coworkers. All that mental noise was affecting my own performance.
How does it work? The Foresight Focus Band monitors over 100 internal cognitive indicators, predicting dangerous, non-compliant thought and emotional spikes. When alignment is achieved, the band releases a microdose of optimized dopaline, our gentle proprietary reward for compliance.
Don't worry, the Foresight Focus Band doesn't stop your thoughts. It simply optimizes them. It gently neutralizes those wasteful moments of doubt or anger, freeing your focus for productivity and life's simple pleasures.
It's changed my life. I went from having emotional outbursts to being the most stable employee on my team. Now, whenever I encounter a challenging idea or emotion, I feel a beautiful and serene sense of complete and immediate calm.
The Foresight Focus Band simply eliminates volatility, ensuring the most efficient, productive version of you is behind the wheel of your own life.
Stop struggling with messy internal conflict. Start living with Truth AI certainty. Get your Foresight Focus Band today.
Truth AI, certainty, clarity, compliance.
Just another interesting fact that if there's anything you guys have we want to close up on for this. I didn't realize they used actual homeless encampments for this movie. That was another trivia. So like the whole beginning part where they have the police response and it comes through and it clears the homeless encampment. They actually used real homeless encampments, and Carpenter paid homeless people as extras and like gave them money. So I thought that was a cool thing. At least give that out. But that also just the insane police response to everything in this movie, like when they find the resistance headquarters and they just go in and like destroy everybody. Like it was like completely crazy, and I just couldn't help but think about like, oh yeah, that looks, except for like the actual shooting, I guess so far looks very similar to how militarized our police is today. But
Yeah, there's
yeah,
so many
anything from you guys? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
go for it.
I was just gonna say there's a ton of like sharp critiques in it, and I think you could probably read into any scene. The thing that I walked away from it was like it wasn't just about like aliens. I thought like the aliens were a stand-in for ruling class, wealth, elite. For me, the takeaway was that power gets its power from like normalization or something. Like it's like it's very normalized and everybody's abiding and whatever. And I think that's what we see today too. Like it starts with Trump having a joke and then it turns into like law. 6 months later, it's totally planned, and it is just like the normalization, and that's how it stains itself. And it's not about like secrecy or conspiracy, because we all kind of see it. And I think with the current stuff, we all see it too.
I would agree. I think just on that, Arthur, it's I guess the normalization. There was near the end. I can't remember who the guy was. I think it was like their boss or whatever that had like signed up with the aliens and was like, oh, like I'm with them now, and he was just like, hey, like it's gonna happen one way or the other, like, I just gonna make some money, like, I'm just trying to, like, just justifying this because, like, "Oh, it's just gonna happen, so, like, I'm part of the system, I'd rather be, the part that makes money and not the part that's just stepped on the whole time," was kinda, like, the takeaway from that guy.
Yeah, it's like why Leonardo DiCaprio is like investing in this Israeli Gaza City thing or something.
Gosh, really? Oh my
I guess
gosh.
I shouldn't put that out there unless it's, or maybe I should. I thought the guy,
I
yeah,
mean, if it's
yeah, okay.
fake, it's about as fake as an Onion headline if it's fake.
No, he's co-financing a luxury hotel in Israel. And yeah, I just kind of think like the same thing, like this Gaza, like they're trying to turn it into like the next Chumba Casino BS stuff. And it's like the same thing that you hear, like, oh, it's going to happen, so I might as well profit off of it. Ugh. But it's good if
Institutionalized.
this kind of thing, this movie is so good because you can literally like take any scene and be like, oh, I can see how that critiques what we're going through right now. So, I mean, that's just good. If it gets your brain all ADHD and, I'm thinking of 20 different things at once, whatever.
Yeah. The homeless encampment thing you were mentioning, Cody, of how they used actual homeless encampments, and I thought it was great that I didn't know that. It's great to learn about the movie. I remember being really impressed with the spread they had. I thought it was like a really luxurious kind of, I don't know, just a really wholesome home-cooked meal, like full plates and everything, just really put a lot of attention into depicting how pleasant mutual aid can look and how, bellies full kind of wholesome scene that was in the midst of this really paranoid kind of social critique kind of movie. When they depicted the homeless encampment and the mutual aid aspect of it, it was a really well done, beautiful scene with a lot of detail and pleasant qualities. And I just thought emotionally it was a nice contrast within the film to get that one. So it makes sense that they would take the time to actually pay the actors and everybody that were in those scenes and everything. So I just thought that was great. Good to hear. The only question or tidbit about the movie to talk about that I thought maybe we could play with is thinking about how they depict different layers, different strata within the class system of how they have the ruling class, the elites, the really, really wealthy people, and then they have the workers in the construction site or the people at the homeless camp. But then they have Meg Foster's character, who the main character runs into, and as a sort of substrata within the class system to talk about what her role functions as in the movie. What does her character tell us about the way class stratification works, and what does their relationship say about how we should understand that for our system?
She was like the new person that worked at the news center, right? That turned out to be a traitor, or not a traitor, but I mean, it was pretty well telegraphed. I felt like the whole time that she was the bad guy. He just couldn't see it. When you started asking that question, I was thinking about you've got the people in the ballroom at the end, right? That are talking about how we've got this human alien alliance and it's working out really well for everybody in the room, and that's obviously not a very big room, right? There's a select group of people that are all there and gold plated, whatever it looks like Trump's ballroom's going to look or something like that. But then there was still within the alien society, there was clearly some sort of class stratification because they had some of them that were acting as cops, right? As enforcers, and not just the wealthy ones. They're telling people what to do. But what does her role play? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I've got an answer to that.
Yeah. Is she so I saw the movie a few months ago in theaters. More middle upper class. She's in on it, but she's not working class, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she's today we'd probably call it professional managerial class, PMC. I think that's what they call them. But yeah, she's a mid-level manager at the TV station, I think, or something like that, right? But there's a sort of awakening aspect with her. She's not really aware of what's going on fully, but then he kind of wakes her up to it a little bit because she has her own little character development arc within the movie. She's not just fully sinister the whole time. She's a victim at a certain moment, when he kidnaps her. But then she's realizing something about him. He's showing her some aspect of the world she didn't really get before. So she's kind of waking up to it a little bit too. And she shows up to that meeting and is kind of seemingly in on it or cool with it.
Yeah.
But then she also ends up going back to being loyal to the ruling class, kind of at the end, right? The last
Yeah.
moment, she's like trying to stop him. There's that class of people that are like really comfortable and successful enough, but they're not like in on the ruling class, but they're like related. You know what I mean? Like I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
definitely.
kind of understand,
No, definitely.
yeah, how she fits in.
Yeah, they uphold like capitalism and system of inequality, and they've obviously created this identity, or have at least let the identity of capitalism get within them, that they're like structurally upholding it. And it reminds me of like one time I worked for somebody who is like a DEI executive. And, it's all about like, hey, let's take down like structural racism, hire whatever. But meanwhile, the company is actually outsourcing labor, and they're actually like not hiring Black people or women or anybody of DEI. And then they do layoffs. And it's like, okay, well, obviously you might believe that, but if you're actively doing other things at the same time, then your position in capitalism is to like stabilize the power and have those upper echelon be in charge. So maybe it's something like that, and it's like a bit of class, not solidarity.
Treason? I don't know.
Class treason, yeah. Yeah.
That description makes sense. I guess I was thinking, trying to relate that to today, people that are really comfortable in, whatever job that they have, and they're making, good money, they have a good living, right? Like very comfortable in the system. And even if they can see there are problems with the system, maybe they just feel like, well, like my, contribution, like I'm not going to do it. I think she even says that at the end. She's like, it's not going to change anything. Like she's pointing the gun at him, and she's like saying like, don't do this. Like it's not going to change anything, blah, blah, blah. So like maybe that's institutionalized. Is that the word? It should be like, she's like part of the system, and just feels like, she, in order to maintain her position, even if she doesn't necessarily agree with, what's going on, she's willing to defend this institution that's got a lot of issues, obviously.
Yeah. Zizek, I'll never say it right. I'll say it differently every time. Has some quote about that where he says something like, people know that they do this. People know very well, but they do it anyway. Something like that. That's not a real quote, but it's something like what he says. And yeah, I think
That
that's
sounds
part
like
of
something he'd say,
ideology.
right?
Yeah, I'd have to like use my hands a lot more and kind of, I don't know. He has a really interesting voice.
I feel like he's always like sniffling or something too.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
he has a
He
bunch of
is.
little. He's a character.
Yeah, you gotta be if you're gonna be like a pop philosopher and try to make money, I guess.
Is that kind of what you were thinking, Joe, or what was your take on her position?
Yeah, no, that's it exactly. I think it's just like trying to. I was just trying to appreciate the psychological complexity that goes into somebody in her position, and how that depicts a large percentage of people who are kind of aware but still complicit, but like not fully comfortable in their complicity. And there's a lot of ambivalence and back and forth with that class of people, but how that's like a very powerful group of people to persuade. You know what I mean? The more of those people that are convinced one way or the other, that there's a lot of play in the power structure there. I think Marx calls those the petty bourgeois, the petit bourgeois, the small bourgeois class. You're like small time big.
It makes me think of like a Nestle executive that's trying to like do good, or some other evil corporation. Insert any corporation, I guess.
Too good. Well, cool. Anything else on this we want to hit on, or we think we're good on that?
They all die at the end. It's a
Yeah.
twist of an ending. No,
The world
I don't want to give away anything. I just think it's a really sharp critique. More films should be made like this. I loved it. I read once that the studio tried to like shut it down because of the message, and they did like this limited release thing, which of course created the cultness of the cult classic. So already stifled at the beginning. They don't want the message out there.
If we have a recommend scale, I recommend it, I think, for sure.
Solid recommend.
Yeah. No, it's hard to convey that kind of message in a very clear way that is accessible to so many people. I think they did a great job with it. It's like a cult classic for a reason, and it's not like some super heady think piece about the world that these people are just philosophizing about. Like, it's a very directly understandable kind of message, and I appreciate their ability to convey the complexity of what's going on in a very simple and direct way. So yeah, definitely recommend it. It's a great conversation piece. If nothing else, you'll have tons to talk about. Go watch it with a friend.
Well, I think that's all we've got for this week. But before we go, at least in New York, early voting started, and I think that wraps up on November 4th. Last week, we included a link in our show notes from the Adirondack Enterprise. So for our area in the Adirondacks, that has all the candidates. So you can look up who's running, what they're running for, and a little bit about them. I'll include that again this week. Liking what's coming out of New York City so far. I hope that continues the trends that they're seeing for a lot of turnout in early voting. So that's good. But yeah, anything from you guys that you want to mention before we go? Or
Mamdani. That's all I got. I've loved the mayoral debate with Mamdani. Keep it
no
up.
punches pulled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone, and yeah, join us Thursday for what are we at? Chapter 8, I think, of Dawn of Everything. We'll be covering that on Thursday. So.
Chapter 8.
Yeah. Invisible cities? Imaginary cities. Invisible cities.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening and hanging out with us.
If you enjoy the show, help us spread the word. Leave a rating or review and share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think would get something out of these conversations.
Your ratings, reviews, and shares help this show grow, and the more people listening, the harder it is for propaganda to win.
So until next time,
Stay aware, stay safe, and remember,
Propaganda loves you.